Hey guys, what's happening? Coming back at you again with another Missing 411 video. And what I thought I would do to, you know, desperately try to find some kind of consistency in these cases is to look at a group of cases that happened very close to one another in terms of a timeline. So if you look at the Bart Schleyer video, that happened in September of 2004. While there are many others that happen in the same time frame, and this one is going to be one of them. This is about Richard R. Lee, who disappeared on September 11th, 2004, basically the very same time frame that Bart Schleyer disappeared up in the Yukon, much further away from this disappearance. But, grasping at straws here, I'm trying to make a connection whether there was something similar between cases that happened literally within days of each other. So this was basically around Colchuck Lake in Washington State, and that the lake is roughly in a Cascade Range, approximately 2 miles northwest of Mount Stewart. So this was another situation similar to Bart, where he insisted on going hiking on his own and camping. He was going to be gone for about 2 to 3 days, and he had a lot of stuff with him. He was very experienced. It's not his first time. However, this area is very rugged, very remote, very beautiful. If you ever look at the images on Google and look at any of the hikers that actually had the opportunity to go there, it's stunning. It's a beautiful area, very rugged and wild. And he insisted on to set up his campsite, not in an official campsite. It was in the bush, in the wild. It was just a spot that he picked out. Before he went missing, he did call his brother from a ridge line. He had some reception, so he used it to call his brother, telling him that everything's fine, everything's cool. He's just having a lot of fun, and he was just checking in, which is great, right? So when he didn't get back on the 11th, his wife didn't think too much of it, because this is not the first time he would have been late coming back from a trip like this. But by the 15th of September, people knew that there was something wrong, and the search was launched. And the thing about this that is kind of spooky, and why I'm kind of grouping it very unofficially, very loosely with Bart Schleyer's situation, is that nothing of him again was found, which is a little different from Bart. But the people that found his tent, the tent was undisturbed. His sleeping bag was still very much ready for him whenever he would get back. There was no sign of any kind of attack or any kind of struggle, any kind of disturbance at the site. However, more than one person that hung out there for more than a few minutes got a very eerie and uneasy feeling about it, and didn't want to stick around for too long. And that's very interesting, because that's the same feeling the pilot got when he landed back in 2004 at Reed Lakes in the Yukon in Canada. He had a very uneasy feeling, and very much one that told him to move out of there as soon as possible. Same thing here. In the same way that there was no disturbance here, no real sign of a huge struggle, not that the same situation happened in Richard R. Lee's case, basically days apart. I find this very interesting. I guess the reason why also is because I had a similar experience to these people that have found these places, and had a very eerie feeling about it. I did some work back in 2006 in Rocky Mountain House, which is basically central west Alberta, Canada. I did some survey work for a company, and this was the kind of work it was kind of sketchy at times, I have to admit. It was just you and your party chief, or your rodman, depending on the setup, but generally just the two of you. And the way we did our work is often we would drive very deep into the forest, very much of like a logging road, very much a secondary road. And the moment we were close to the area we had to survey, we would just take the ATVs down of our truck and ride much further in, right? Basically using just conventional survey once we got there, but to get to our site, we just used paper maps and kind of orientated ourselves on what we had on paper, right? Because we didn't have good GPS reception there. Anyway, so obviously we were exposed to some very rugged, wild terrain, and a lot of the time I felt like my foot was the first one that was stepping on a certain piece of ground. That's how remote and wild this was, and it was proven to us again by the amount of wildlife we would see and the amount of quiet we would observe. Like there was moments where we were so far away from the road and the highway that if we didn't say anything or do anything, it was so quiet. It was almost too quiet. You know what I mean? Anyway, so my small kind of experience that compares to this was when I was going back to a last minute thing at about 4:55 p.m. on a day. My chief said just to go back and double check that the bend was properly marked, and no problem, right? But the problem was this was a good 500 yards away. So and we already loaded the ATVs on the truck, so I had to go on foot. No problem. So I started going on foot, and he was just cleaning up and packing up for the end of the day. And I didn't make much of it, but halfway through to the bend, I noticed that I did not feel right. The sun was setting. This was late October. It almost felt like someone was walking alongside me, a good 15-20 yards to the right, and it did not feel like I should keep going. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of feeling like, I know I'm supposed to do this, and I know I'm working, I'm getting paid here, but your gut is screaming at you to get the hell back to the truck. But didn't want to be a wuss or anything, so I kept going. What am I going to say? Oh, I've had a bad feeling about this flagging I'm going to put up on a tree. Not a good excuse, right? So I keep going to, and I know where I'm going, I just, want to do this as soon as possible. So I keep going, get to the bend, mark it up as quick as I can with the pink flagging I had on me, and I just started to do a speed walk back to the truck. And again, this feeling is growing. It's getting more intense. Like if I were to stop, something bad would happen. That was the feeling, and definitely a feeling of being watched. Most definitely. So again, this is Rocky Mountain House. It's in very rugged, very like maybe 50 miles west of Rocky Mountain House. And I'm just walking back, and I know I should be running because I'm still not seeing the truck, and this feeling is getting stronger and stronger. So I start running. The hell with it. Whatever happens. I just want to see that truck and get the hell out of there, right? And I don't know what I'm going to tell my party chief. So finally, I break through the bush. I see the truck. I'm like, all right. And my guy, Pierre, like, he looks at me and he's like, what the hell's wrong? And I'm like, oh, I just, I thought I made something up. I said, I wanted to be back as soon as possible because I was going to call my girlfriend or something. Some bullshit I made up on the spot. He just kind of looked at me, whatever, just get in. Didn't say anything about it, of course, because I knew we were not going to go back there. That was the end of, we were done that job. But to this day, when I think back of that little 5-10 minute last task of the day, I get chills on my spine, and my skin gets weird. That's how freaky that was. So when someone insists in a report to write down that the searcher stated that the campsite that Richard had chosen had an eerie feeling to it, and it appeared just like someone walked away from it minutes earlier. When I read that, I kind of know what they're talking about, and it's not good. And whatever is responsible for these cases and for these missing people, I think we're in a spot now where we can only maybe gather similar cases like Dave has done, and I'm going to try to do this even more um, tightly, so that when you know, maybe see this week or two in a calendar where these people disappeared in very similar circumstances, maybe and you look at the map of those dates, maybe we can relate that to something even more uh, common, as a common denominator. Excuse me. So, so maybe on their own, they seem random, but if you put like search out what else happened on these dates around wild areas, or was there anything else weird that was reported that could be linked to this? You know what I mean? I know I'm maybe grasping at straws here, but we have to do that a little bit now in this phenomena to maybe get to somewhere more more meaningful than just, you know, staying on these profile points, you know, which are good. They're very well set up by David. So needless to say, he wasn't found. No, nothing of him was found. His stuff, his tent and his sleeping bag were found, but a lot of his stuff that he had with him was not found either. This was 2004, so a lot of time has passed for other hikers to visit the area and maybe see pick up his bones or his remains or his backpack. Nothing was found. It's as if he disappeared into thin air. So please comment down below if you know more about this case. Maybe if you live in the Washington State Colchuck Lake area and you visited it. Uh, Tell me what you think about just the area on its own. Did you ever have a creepy feeling hiking there? Did you ever have a close call or a near miss? Or can you tell us something that you know that you probably know that may be news to us in that area? Because again, this was another experienced hiker. He was 47. He did this a lot. It was not his first time around. And again, he was found outside of the perimeter, the radius that where he was found. His, you know, he wasn't found, right? So what I'm saying is, he was wherever he ended up physically. It was outside of the norm where missing people are usually found, you know, dead or alive, unfortunately. So having said that, yeah, you know, comment below, state your theories and your possibilities, and also if you have a story yourself where you were hiking or doing things on your own and you had a very eerie feeling come over you, do describe it. I think there's something there. I think we're very naive to think we know everything that happens in the wild. That's very naive, approach. Especially, I've spent, you know, over 2 years. That's not a lot, but over those 2 years, the amount of time when I was on my own in the wild was, I would say 70% of that time when I was working was on my own. And let me tell you, on the one hand, it's beautiful to appreciate the nature, the fact that there's no traffic, no ads, no noise, no honking, no sirens, right? On the one hand, it's beautiful. You really appreciate that as a human being. But on the other hand, you very quickly realize that even a twisted ankle could mean you're dead. You know? Or just a slip and fall and loss of consciousness for long enough, you're dead. That's the flip side of the coin in being in places like that. So of course, in what I'm describing, you would be easily found because you're not hiding. But in these cases that David is describing, something else is going on, and it might have something to do with this feeling people get. It might not, but if they wrote it down in the report, then it was more than just a weird feeling. It was something that more than one person felt, and it was important enough and strong enough for them to include in the report. So again, that was Richard R. Lee. This appeared September 11th, 2004, around Colchuck Lake, Washington, age 47, never found. Okay, I'm going to keep going with that time frame, about 2 weeks in the middle of beginning in the middle of September 2004, and we'll see if we can make any discoveries that overlap those disappearances as far as other events that happened in the U.S. and Canada during that time. Okay, maybe we'll get somewhere. All right, post your comments below, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for spending your time with me.